Here we go, section 3.4, division with decimal numbers. Okay, in this one we're going to divide decimal numbers, calculate the average amount per unit, and divide by at powers of 10. Okay, to divide decimal numbers, move the decimal point in the divisor to the right so that the divisor is a whole number. Move the decimal point in the dividend the same number of places to the right. Place the decimal point in the quotient directly above the new decimal point in the dividend. Divide just as with whole numbers, zeros may be added as needed. Okay, and then there's a note. In moving the decimal point, you are multiplying both the divisor and the dividend by powers of 10. We're getting rid of, basically we're kind of getting rid of decimals in a way. Okay, you're going to see that later on. Okay, be sure to place the decimal point in the quotient before actually dividing. There must be a digit in the quotient above every digit to the right of the decimal point in the dividend. Okay, let's look at an example, then we'll do one on our own. Coming in here, let's look at this one right here. Find the quotient of 64.17 divided by 6.2. Write down the numbers. Okay, we're dividing 6.2 divided by 64.17. Then it says, just notice it says as in step 1 and 2, or 2 and 3, move the decimal points to one place to the right. Notice right here, I'm moving this decimal point to where I get a whole number right here. Then if I move this over once, I have to move this guy over one time. Okay, then once I get him here, I just put him right there. Okay, then you can just go ahead and start dividing like you normally would. So let's come in here and do that. So we've already moved our decimal point. We've kept it here for a reason, just so you can kind of see what's happened. It's been moved over by 1. Here it's been moved over by 1 and then brought up. Now let's start our division. Grab a pen here. Okay, how many times will 62 go into 64? Well, it'll go in one time. 1 times 62 is 62. Okay, come in here. We're going to do 40 minus 2 is 2, and then I get a 1. We'll know 62 will go into 21 0 times. So I put a 0 here, bring down the 21. Now I'm not worried about this decimal anymore. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and just go ahead and keep dividing like normal. Now I've got 217 because I'm going to bring down this decimal point here. Okay, I'll look at it, kind of play around. I tend to use my calculator sometimes, but I know this 62 will go into 217. It'll go in 3 times. Okay, 3 times 62 is going to give me 186. Okay, well, I can come in here and go, there's a 1 there. Here's an 11. This just goes to a 1, and this is going to turn into a 3. Then I can bring down the 0, and I've got 310. Okay, well, 62 will go into 310 5 times. 5 times 62 is going to give me 310, and so I get a remainder of 0. Okay, and what they're saying about sometimes you may have to add zeros. If there was a remainder here, okay, I could keep adding zeros and just keep going and going. It depends on how far do I want to keep going with the decimal. And that's exactly how that works. You're going to see this later on. Okay, but the answer to this one is going to be 10.35. So let's do another one here. We've got 24.225 divided by 4.25. So let's write this out. I've got 4.25 divided by 24.225. Okay, being very careful here. Let's look. I've got this decimal place here. I need to move it over by 2 places. Okay, this gets me a whole number right here. But remember, what I do here, I have to do to the inside. So when I come over here, I'm going to go 1, 2, bring it over to here, and then I'll just bring it straight up. Okay, and then I'm going to do division like normal. Okay, I'll start looking at things going, well, 425, will it go into anything? And just kind of start working my way just exactly how I would in a normal situation. So let's come in here. How many times will 425 go into, well, I can't do the 242. I have to go to this 2,422, and I notice it's going to go in 5 times. Well, 5 times 425 is going to give me 2125. Okay, I can come here and start doing my subtraction now. This is going to turn to a 12, this will turn to an 11, and this will turn to a 3. So here we've got 12, that's going to be 2, that's going to be a 7 there. And then here we're going to get a 9, and then here we're going to get a 2. And then notice I can bring down this 5 now. Okay, and I want you to bear in mind, notice I'm not bringing down this decimal. Okay, this decimal's up here. He's where he's going to be. I'm happy with him. Okay, don't mess with him anymore. Just do your division as normal now. Okay, so now I'm going to go 425. How many times will that go into 2,975? Well, it looks like 7 times. And then here I'll get 2,975, and then I'll get a remainder of 0 at this point. So my answer for this one is 4.25 divided by 24.225 is 5.7. That would be my final answer. Okay, now let's see what happens now when the remainder is not 0. Okay, when the remainder is not 0, decide how many decimal places are to be the quotient. Okay, it's up to you sometimes, but sometimes they'll tell you this is where I want you to go to. Divide until the quotient has been calculated to one place to the right of the desired accuracy. If they tell me to go to the tenths, I'm going to go to the hundredths. If they tell me to go to the hundredths, I'm going to go to the thousands, and then so on and so forth. Using this last digit, round the quotient to the desired place of accuracy. Okay. If the remainder is eventually a 0, the decimal number is said to be terminating. For example, 14.2 and 0.3425 are terminating decimal numbers. They end. Okay? If the remainder is not eventually 0, the decimal number is said to be non-terminating or repeating. For example, 1.333, notice it never stops. It keeps going. That's what these little dots mean. You'll learn about those shortly. It's a non-terminating decimal number. It's just going to keep going and going and going. Okay? Let's take a look at some examples here. Here we're going to divide to the nearest tenth. Okay? Since it says we're dividing to the nearest tenth, I'm actually going to do my division out to the hundredth. Notice hundredth, or DTH. Okay? So divide until the quotient has been calculated to the hundredth place. One place more than the tenth, then round to the nearest tenth. So here we go. We've got 2.9 divided by 82.3. Okay, well I'm going to come in here. I'll get my red pen out. Notice I'm going to move this guy over by 1. So that puts the decimal here, giving me a whole number right here. Okay, then right here I'm going to go and move this guy over by 1. Okay, and then I'll put my decimal right there. So seeing this written out the way it is now, let's go to the next page and I'll rewrite this so we can kind of start doing the division. Okay, I've got 29, and I'm going to go ahead and write my decimal here like we had it, divided by, let me double check here, I've got 823, 823, and then I've got that decimal point right there. Okay, so 29 will go into 82, looks like it'll go in 2 times. Okay, 2 times 29 is going to give me 58. Then I come in here, do 12, and then I can do a 7 here. This is going to give me 4 and give me 24. Notice now I can bring down the 3. Okay, so now I have 243. And how many times will 243 go into this? Well, notice 243 will go in 8 times. Okay, so I come here, put an 8. 8 times 29 is going to give me 232. Now I come in here, start doing the subtraction again. So I've got a 1 here, and then I've got a 1 here. Okay, notice this is where my decimal stops, but it tells me I've got to go to the 10th place. So I need to go ahead and add a 0 now. Okay, and then I'll bring that 0 straight down. So now I have 110. How many times, then I forgot to put my decimal up there, how many times will 29 go into 110? Well, it'll go in 3 times. So put a 3 there. 29 times 3 is going to give me 87. Okay, come in here. I'll start doing my math again. Then I've got a 10 there, and that's just gone. So that's going to give me 23. Okay, well notice, I also notice I got to go ahead and put another 0 because I've got to go to the 100th place. So I'm going to bring this other 0 down now, and that gives me 230. Well, how many times will 29 go into 230? It'll go in 7 times. 7 times 29 is 203. Okay, that is a 10. This turns to a 2, and this gives me 27 for a remainder, which I'm not worried about the remainder now, but I am going to notice that my number is 28.37, but I need to get it to the nearest tenth. Well, looking to right here, notice that this is 5 or greater, and so this is going to turn to 29.4, and this is going to be my final answer. Okay, let's do some more. Okay, dividing a decimal by a power of 10, 10, 100, 1000, so on. Okay, count the number of zeros in the power of 10. Move the decimal point. Okay, before it was to the right, now it's going to be to the left. So when we multiply, we move to the right. When we divide, we move to the left. Okay, division by 10 moves the decimal place 1. Then we look at the 0 for 100, it's 2. For 1000, it's 3. So let's look at an example here. 5.23 divided by 100, well, that's 2 zeros, so that means I can move this guy over by 2 decimal places, and notice that's the answer we get right there. Same thing here. 817 divided by 10, which is written this way. Notice we're just moving the decimal place over by 1. Here's 1000. Now notice this one's got the decimal place here, but I can still go over 1, 2, and 3. Put the decimal, add 2 zeros, just like they did right here. Okay, pretty straightforward whenever you're doing powers of 10.